Good evening, Saraswati ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Ravi. Thank you. Thanks for
You're
joining.
back in action in full swing.
Sorry?
You're back in action with full swing.
Absolutely.
Abba.
And in fact, we have a totally different topic tomorrow, another virtual session, COVID-19, since you asked about
Yes, I saw that.
COVID-19 in 2023 is tomorrow's discussion under the Healthcare Committee.
It's the healthcare committee, is it?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
We are planning for a panel discussion next month on mental health.
Oh, next month, is it? Okay.
I'll keep you all posted anyway. So we will just wait for another 3-4 minutes extra, if you don't mind, for people are slowly joining. Would you mind?
Yeah.
Just 2-3 minutes more.
Yes, Saraswati. You tell us when we should.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ravi. Hello. Hello. Chaluma.
Dr. Ravi, you are on audio.
No problem. ஒண்ணுமே பிரச்சனை.
Dr. Ravi.
Bhavani, you told something?
No, we said you were on audio. Can you? Bhavani, if you are ready, we can start. You are muted.
Yes, we are ready. We are ready.
Okay, sure. Thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Saraswati, Secretary General of the Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the 187 years young chamber, oldest in southern India, oldest in Tamil Nadu, and second oldest in the country. Considering Bombay Chamber was born 1 week ahead, otherwise would have been twins. So in age, I think years, 1 week doesn't matter. So that way we are one of the oldest, I should say. And we are very happy to have this program panel discussion today, organized under the Women Business Council of the Madras Chamber. For your kind information, the Chamber has 13 expert committees on various domains, 4 working groups and the Women Business Council. So we have number of activities under each of these committees and councils. And this particular program is with Ms. Bhavani, Bhavani Balasubramanian, the chairman of the Women Business Council support. We are organizing under the WBC. Basically, we have been talking, as Ms. Bhavani was mentioning, we know technology is a great leveler. So we want to know whether digital is for DigitALL. So that had been the theme. So I would better stop here, leave this to the experts. Only one request to all the delegates who have joined. Please keep your audio, video in silent mode, mute them. And maybe during the question and answer hours, if you can raise your hand, if required, we can open up. Or you could also post your questions as and when you hear the panelists in the chat box. So I would stop here. I would request Ms. Bhavani Balasubramanian, the chairman of the WBC, to set the context and give her welcome remarks also. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. A special thanks to all the panelists, the expert panelists who have joined. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Saraswati. Good afternoon, friends. It's wonderful to be with you all. And on behalf of my co-chair, Madhuri, and myself, it's a great pleasure to have the panelists here on the topic of the year by the UN. The UN Women and United Nations celebrated the theme DigitALL, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality on March 8, 2023. Innovation and technology for gender equality. The call was to celebrate women and girls who are champions in the advancement of one, transformative technology and digital education. The observance aimed at exploring digital gender gap, which is widening the economic and the social inequalities. There was a call to have spotlight on the importance of the rights of women and girls in the digital spaces and to address the online and the ICT facilitated gender violence. Women represent 1/3 of the workforce in STEM, but are underrepresented in development of new technologies. And there is a need to close the digital divide, called out the UN Women. It is seen that $1 trillion of the GDP has been shaved off from the low and middle income countries, and the loss would grow up to 1.5 trillion by 2025 because of the under-participation of women in STEM. Women achievements in STEM have been great, but often untold. The underrepresentation has been manifesting itself in STEM education and in careers. Thank God, India has a different story, which we'll come to. But in terms of what has happened, these two aspects, the education and the career advancement, have become a big barrier for participation in tech design and governance. More than that, the pervasive threat of the online gender-based violence, coupled with the lack of legal recourse, forces people out of the digital spaces they occupy. The unprecedented threats on well-being become the after effects. India, however, has steadily picked up in terms of the highest number of scientists and engineers over the past few years. 43% of our graduates in STEM are women, the highest probably in the world. But there is only 14% of scientists, engineers, and tech experts. The government initiatives, the Vigyan Jyoti, the gender advancement for transforming institutions, the Gati, and the knowledge involvement research advancement through nurturing, the Kiran, All these three are major initiatives taken by the government. Having said that, when we look at the top 10 best companies for women, all those companies are in STEM. None of the companies are not connected in some manner with them. The top 10 in 2022 were all companies who are in the field of STEM. And when you look at the gender mix in the 100 best companies, corporate executives, the percentage of women is only 17.44. Senior managers is 17.63. Managers is 25.93. When you look at the promotion rates to manager is only 15.31, whereas men is 19.64. To senior manager, women is 11.69 and men is 17.32. To senior executives is 10.88, but men is, to senior executives is 6.63 and men is 10.88. When you look at P&L responsibilities of women, it is only 17.76% of women who hold P&L responsibilities in the top 100 best companies for women. The heads of business with turnover over 1,000 crores, again, the women percentage is only 14.05. The direct reportees to CEO, again, the percentage is only 16.37. So therefore, there's a lot of work to be done in the corporate sector to increase leadership in STEM. Then the other two aspects which I would expect corporates to really work upon is to call out the online threat on gender-based violence and create awareness on the importance of women and girls in digital spaces. While we do a lot of initiatives to create awareness on the importance of women and girls in digital spaces through the CSR initiatives, I think as corporates, we are not so vocal about calling out the threat on gender-based violence. Unlike the developed countries where corporates who give their viewpoints, we are a little safe on that aspect and have left it to the social activists to take it forward. Maybe we need to do something in this. Having said all these things, I would like the panel to deliberate on much richer aspects and those things which they would like to bring forth to the table today. And the panelists are being anchored by Savita Keshav Jagdishan, senior partner of Kochar & Co., who heads the Chennai office. Her practice areas are labor law, corporate law, intellectual property law, and TMT law. She also heads the intellectual property practice in South India. She graduated out of National School of India University, and she has featured in the Forbes Power list of top 100 legal professionals, as well as the Business Law Journal of the top 100 professionals in the legal field. She is the co-chair of the Legal Affairs Committee of MCCI. I have expressed my views in these opening remarks, and I'm sure Deepa, Gomit, and Archana would really give a lot of impetus to these aspects and the various thoughts they would like to bring to the table. A hearty welcome to the panelists, and over to you, Savita.
Thank you so much, Bhavani, for that very enriching introduction to today's topic. And it's a much needed discussion or dialogue. So before we enter into this entire gamut with some amazing speakers that has been curated for you, let me do a short introduction to each one of them, who come from different fields as far as technology is concerned and brings with them, over 20 years of experience. I'll start with Ms. Archana Nandakumar, who's essentially a domain expert, SOC at Cisco. Archana is a cybersecurity evangelist and a domain expert, SOC domain expert, working over 17 plus years in the security operations sector, which is essentially the SOC domain. She's also a certified Chief Information Security Officer and has been helping Cisco for the last 11 plus years to secure its environment for cyber threats, which is at the Cisco CSIR team, or the Computer Security Incident Response. She's a mentor for the WICSP, which is Women in Cybersecurity and Privacy, a nonprofit community that basically brings up cyber awareness among Indian women. She also launched the Cisco's Women in Cybersecurity program, which at the India chapter, to increase the diversity in the field of cybersecurity. I welcome you, Archana.
Thank you.
Then,
Thank you.
Then we have our next speaker, who is Ms. Deepa. Deepa is a partner of Deloitte India. She is with the Deloitte Cyber Practice team, and she has about 25 years of experience providing cybersecurity and technology controls in the advisory space. She has specific appearance in and experience in working on cyber strategy and transformation-related areas in emerging technologies, with focus on the manufacturing and technology companies. She is the India relationship partner of some of the largest tech and manufacturing clients in South Asia, and has worked across various ERP and GRC platforms in SAP, S4, HANA, and other ERPs. She's also the winner of the Women in Tech Award from Reva University. Welcome, Deepa. And of course, our last speaker is Mr. Gomit Pant, the Vice President and Global Head of InfoSec Services of ABB India, a seasoned IT professional with broad information security and technology experience with an array of certifications, which is, a mouthful for me, but I'm going to take it. GICSP, the CISSP, the CISA, the MCITP, the MCSA, and CCNA. He is also a lead implementer for the ISO 27001 and the ISO 22301 with a flair for secure business enablement. At ABB, he's responsible for the end-to-end execution of information security services and the expectations from across the globe. He's supposed to be and is a cybersecurity leader on weekdays and an experimental chef on weekends, which is a very interesting profile. What is interesting also with regard to Gomit, that he has essentially mentored many, and especially women in entering the digital space, and essentially believes to bring this kind of mentoring very much young in their career, and that's something he advocates. So with that, we have three amazing panelists from three different domains with three different perspectives entirely. But what is interesting and a commonality between all three of them is that they have been working in the space of advocating the digital world for women without having to think about whether it is to do with a gender specific role. So it's just not about men or women, but to create a very inclusive space for anybody who wants to essentially take up this domain. So without much ado, I will start essentially to welcome Archana to start with giving her perspectives, which will be followed by Gomit and then Deepa. Once the panelists are able to bring forth their knowledge into the space that we have stepped into, we'll open the floor for questions. Feel free to either unmute and ask them, or you can put it in the chat box. We hope to have a very, very interesting conversation here and a lot of knowledge sharing and learning. And the idea is just not that, this is a one-off program that's going to, again, look at it on an inclusivity basis. The idea essentially is this is, again, a step towards creating a more inclusive environment for anybody who wants to take up responsibilities, leadership positions, and knowledge sharing in the digital space. Archana, without much ado, I hand it to you.
Thank you, Savita. Okay, it's a very interesting topic, when it comes to the women. I don't know, I get some kind of sense of, a power within me when you have all the experts that is talking about bringing in more women. So, I just thought for today, let me just share one of my experience of how, 17 years of journey that recalled my experience is something, if that's something can add value to the the people who are listening over here. So I come from a field which is cybersecurity SOC, as Savita had introduced, and SOC basically stands for Security Operations Center. A little glimpse about what is SOC. So moment you hear Security Operations Center, it's a very mission oriented, right? So you might be thinking, okay, so it's a mission oriented. The goals of this particular team is you do the threat detection. 17 years ago, when I started my journey, I never knew I was in engineering. Let me frankly say, I was in electronics and communication engineering. I never knew I would land up something in computers like this. And my first job was in Chennai. Okay. So I started with a system engineer. I started with, luckily it was a security field where I had to configure, the security devices. Let me tell you the fact, 17 years ago, and there's not much change that I see over here. And I will explain you what the trend looks like as of now in this specific cybersecurity domain. So when I started it, the networking aspect of things, I used to travel to a lot of customers. Okay. And would you, usually it's all, traveling with the gears, you can think about the routers and switches, a girl handing, with the bars that she will handle, and you go to the customer and you say, okay, I am the one SME coming over here to kind of, configure it. So the first look of the glance that they would give is, okay, so she's a woman, she's good. So they will go and confirm back saying that, okay, is she the one who is going to come and you give us a consultant, do the security mapping of things around our company. So, the first impression of something which goes into the mind of people, okay, so there's a lady who's coming at right our doorstep who's going to configure the firewalls and the switches and things. So that was something that 17 years ago. Okay. And then slowly the perspective got changed in a way that, and still it is not, but let me tell you, when I started, there were room of, it was a not very, cybersecurity was still something which was booming up. It is not like as with so much noise that we make in the emerging trends of, things that we talk about. If there are 3 women in a room, there'll be like 15 males in the room, and look at the ratio, 3:15, so natural tendency of a woman to think about, okay, there are so many, male figures which is there, and I'm the only one, will my boss give me the work, how do I go and communicate it? There are so many things that runs, and being a, coming out of a fresh and starting up the job, we tend to, always be in a silo, just observe. Women are usually very good observer, first initially few months, it'll all be observing, and then slowly we kind of nurture it. So that was something journey 17 years ago. And if you look at the recent years, I thought, that with so much noise that we make about the cybersecurity the last 5 years, I thought this trend will, take a shift. It has taken a shift, no doubt. On a positive note, we have seen a spike of women coming in this particular field. But how much is the representation? As Bhavani ma'am was talking about, how much is that representation? You remember that 17 years ago when I was talking, there are 3 women in a room and a 15 to 20 males. Today, probably I will still see less than 10 women in this field. And still, the increase that is 30 males in it. You say that the change is not very significant. It is increasing, but little bit increasing. So the gradual increase that we will have to take it. There are a lot of key challenges that we will talk about as and when, if we really have to think about why that change has happened. Yes, there is last 5 years post-pandemic, there has been a lot of awareness. Lots of forums have come. Women's forum exclusively have come. There are a lot of mentorship programs that have come, but how many women are effectively utilizing is something that we will have to, talk about it. Because what I see from my end journey, and when I talk to both the academias and for the people career, the women who are actually in the mid-career, one thing that I really wanted is how many of them voice out. Most women sit back in the couch waiting either somebody would give or somebody who really are passionate, and they're not being, called upon onto the stage. There are a lot of women speakers are very less. You will see a lot of male speakers, he's talking on this hacking topic, but women speakers are very less. So although we have the potential, there is a tap that has to be done in terms of bringing forward these women. And we will talk about it, Savita. So this specific thing, and this is my journey that I really wanted to bring, and I love to share this. Because being a SOC specialist, people usually see me as a geek kind of a thing, okay, you are the one who hacked. But I want to break this perception. Cybersecurity SOC is not just a cybersecurity moment. We say, okay, you do the hacker, you're a white hacker, black hacker, and kind of thing. It's not as such. There are so many opportunities that is available for the women. And if it's a chance that's given, we will definitely, deep dive into what all the things, because women are usually look into the perspective of saying that, okay, she's good in HR, she's good in communication, she's good in process. How many, this is the perspective that women have built. It's not as such, I wanted to break that barrier where I bring in more women into this field, and then people look forward, okay, she could do role like, threat detection. She could do the role like, leading up the SOC. So that's something that I wanted to share, Savita. So I'll go ahead with our panelists, if there's something that they have to also add upon.
Thank you so much, Archana. I mean, that's a very wonderful perspective out there that you've put. And it's just that persona also, that what your work has, that is, that judgmental nature that essentially enters us, that what your work is, it reflects upon you as an individual, or the individual who can be chosen for that kind of a domain expertise that stays in one's mind. So I am going to come back to you later on with regard to that, with regard to, how does one change that, or how does one approach in order to make oneself more amiable to be picked when it comes to these kind of domain expertise, which essentially has always been male dominant. So with that, I'm going to switch, of course, to our male perspective here. And Gurmeet has worked very hard in trying to make women inclusive as far as the digital world is concerned. That's something that he's very passionate about. What is also interesting is you're not the token male on this panel for sure, Gurmeet. We are essentially looking from you that perspective with your interactions in this particular industry, whether or not, whatever we have brought out, whether or not it sits right as far as your perspective is also concerned. So I'm going to give it to you first to give us a little bit of insight from your end.
Sure. Thanks, Savita. And thanks to the Madras Chamber team to invite for such an important and discussion that is very close to my heart. It's exciting as well as challenging, because one of the things that I keep saying is that we need to restore the balance that never existed. And when Archana was mentioning about how she's encouraging women, so I was just wondering, it would have been so good if there were 10 of them around us, just to make sure that women are excited about the field that we operate in, and just unwrap cybersecurity and just stop looking at the cover, which tells them that it's just a hacker business. So I'd like to talk about some facts and some how things are, and shake thought process a bit. Also talk about certain anecdotal references around what has happened during my experience and my targets to drive or restore balance, as I will re-emphasize on. So there are plethora of researches available around cybersecurity, and I will focus about it because my passion lies in that area. Plus, my passion lies in making sure that we're creating equal opportunities. And I run a 200 people team, which includes insourced and outsourced, and there's definitely it's out of balance. And it's when I say balance, is not just about having the diversity ratios. That's not and then meeting certain targets. That's not the sole purpose. It's also about balance of thought, a balance of perspective, which you just can't read a book and present. It's also when you bring in diversities, when you bring the balance of thought. So there are just about 25% women representation when you look at overall cybersecurity, and it rapidly drops down to single digits when it comes to leadership layer. And I personally feel, and I will challenge the thought, that we are equally accountable parties. It's not that it's men leading the way in making this balance broken, but I think it's two-way, because I feel that everybody is judgmental. It's not just a man or a woman who's judgmental, and there are a lot of biases that get created. Some of them Archana mentioned, some of them I can talk about, which need to be broken. And I'll only talk about two biases. One is the unconscious bias that people get sometimes, just not even thinking deeply. And sometimes you will see confirmation bias, that if this is a man, he's available 24/7, and he will be making sure that he can power lift routers and switches and walk around in the offices, while if there's a woman, she will leave at 5:30 no matter what. So that's a confirmation bias. I don't feel that that's necessarily true, because my personal experience tells me that a few of the most dedicated and creative leaders that I have worked with have been women. Deepa is one of those who I interact with very frequently, who goes after me. So it's definitely that there is certain bias that needs to be broken. And sometimes confirmation bias is also around that men will be hands-on, women will be very thought process centric. So technical roles, hands-on roles may not fit in so well. Also, talking about this, one of the very interesting revelations of past few years is that why do we not get women? This is the conversation that I keep having with my peers, that there are times when we're saying we want to encourage and bring in more women talent on a particular area, and we want to make sure that we've got women representation in all 7 or 8 lines of work that I manage. So why is not working out for us? You'll be doing everything that we can. So a very interesting revelation came out, and it just occurred to me and the group as part of our discussions, is that, hey, we are writing the job descriptions as men, and we are expecting women to read them and make some sense out of it. And most likely the job descriptions lead to a unicorn search. And if you look at a man can apply because he may think of taking that risk, and women stick to the bill. That's something that was very clearly evident when we had that conversation, and we decided that no, so we have to pass it through to make sure that everybody is comfortable reading a job description, and it is not a wish list. It's a precise role description which makes people comfortable. The other thing, which is also a bias from the women, is that if it's an all-men panel, most likely the company is not very women-centric, and that's absolutely wrong. Sometimes, I have personally addressed this problem, made sure that people come into there's a diversity panel, even if I had to wait 15-20 days to find the right set of people to interview. So, but I am addressing the bias that's not present at the interviewer side or the one who's recruiting. It's also on the side where the person has to come in. So this is just how it is, and we have to make sure that some way or the other we are addressing it, and with a mutual effort. Having said that, this sounds sometimes academic, but there is no panacea to it. You're not going to solve it with one silver bullet. There is a continuous effort that needs to be made. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street to kill the biases that we create. So I'll take a pause here. That's pretty much what's going on in my mind, and I'll hand back to you, Savita.
Thank you, Gumit. And that was a very interesting perspective. So what you're essentially, what I can understand is that it's just not those biases that are there in the recruiters as such. It is also on the recruitee themselves, that they might essentially put themselves in a particular hole and say, okay, this is a right fit or this is not a right fit. And we'll get back to that to see, is that actually a fact, which I will put it to the other panelists, and maybe the audience can also pick it if they so desire and give their perspective. But it'll be very interesting to see whether or not, that is a fact or not. So with that, I'll come to you, Deepa, and let's hear, because you are in the consultancy space and very much in a very, very, I would say, a hardcore digital space, just as much with a leadership position. So I hope that, we get to hear from you all the three perspectives. So over to you.
Thanks, Savita. So thanks a lot for having me here in the panel today. A couple of things that I just want to mention before I get into the topic is in terms of the opportunity that is available today, right? If you look at India, this is the decade for India as per the Morgan Stanley report, and I truly believe that this is a decade for all of us out here. India is the fastest growing economy. If you look at it, it's been growing and, the growth has been 5.5%. It's we want to be the third largest economy by 2027. And the most interesting and what really drives me is in terms of the digital economy in which we are in. As we all know, if I look at the UPI payment gateway, which happened in India, that particular platform is going to be used across the globe. And that's the kind of opportunity that all of us in this particular call have from a digital standpoint. The second thing that I want to also mention is in terms of when we talk about technology, what does it come to you, right? When you talk about cyber, like what Archana mentioned, it's somebody putting hacking a system, or it's always taken from a negative standpoint, right? So that is from a cyber standpoint. If I look at technology, what does it come to people's mind, right? It could be hardcore technical stuff that we are talking about. It could be coding. It could be some certain terminologies which scares us. It could be, a lot more people might be familiar now with either cloud, metaverse, right? So those words really kind of put us back to say that, what is this person saying? He or she is using all kinds of terminology. And when we go as consultants, those gives us, using more, technical terms is something that comes very naturally to us, which we avoid, right? But the second point that I'm trying to mention here is the breadth in which technology needs to be looked at can be much more broader, right? So if I look at a manufacturing company, let's take ABB or any other manufacturing company, if you go into their website, they will never call themselves as a manufacturing company. They say that they are tech organizations, right? They deliver tech, right? They deliver manufacturing by using technology. Technology comes to them first, and then comes manufacturing, right? So whereas when we talk about tech, we might be talking about certain ITS provider or certain product companies, right? So the definition in terms of how we all need to look at technology is much, much broader, right? So that's the second one. The third important aspect, when I talk about the interest in technology, I think there are various roles that people can play, right? So if I look at the journey in terms of technology, it need not be that you're only a coder. For example, Savita, I did my bachelor I was a BCom graduate, and I did my MBA from Chennai, only from DIBA, right? So I'm not a core techie person, right? I'm not an engineer. I'm not a techie person, but right from the day one that I have started working, I have been working in the technology space. And the differentiation that I'm able to bring on the table is that I have the commerce background, right? I have the business background in me, and then I understand technology, and that's where I come as a different. I bring in my differentiation there, right? So if you look at your techno-functional consultant is the most required as far as business is concerned. A PMO related role from a technology standpoint is there are a lot of opportunities there. So the definition in terms of how we look at technology and the roles within technology is much more broader than the core technical related work. That is one component of it. And the last one that I would want to leave with is there are two or three parts to in terms of the DigitALL, if I can look at it, right? For us to making sure that we are able to make a difference in terms of the inclusion that we are talking about, I would think it in three parts. The first part is what women needs to do for themselves. Right. So that's the first part. I know someone, Gomit, for example, has specific roles where he wants in his leadership team. He has been keeping those roles for almost quite a bit of time for having the right women candidate to join that particular team, right? So, but there is nobody who's coming forward to take that challenging role, right? So the first thing is for a lot of women in this particular call, I would think it's for you to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, ask for help, you will definitely get it. That's the first. The second one, from the organization perspective, I think today most of the organizations are running different programs that is available, right? So it is for us to again make use of those opportunity, and some of the points that Gomit really articulated. I think there are a lot more things that we can add on to that. And as far as society is concerned, again, there could be certain challenges that we might face, but things are changing, right? So even there, I think asking for help will really help. So that's my perspective, Savita. The digital economy that we are in, the opportunities that we have, the talent shortages that we have, plus the opportunities from a tech standpoint is much more broader. And the last one to start with is to see that women need to come forward a lot more and raise their hands is what I would like to start with.
Thank you so much for that, Deepa. I think you just brought the whole debate together very eloquently. And I think, like I said, it is your very differential perspective, which essentially bang on brings in what the current issues are. But that's when I threw it back to all three of you. I heard it in each of what three of you are saying. So Archana, Deepa, you found your foothold in this particular digital world. At the same time, Gomit is looking to fill certain, like you said, some of those key positions by women, but he's unable to do so. So what is that reticence that holds women back on not coming forth to skill themselves or upskill themselves or reach out for that? So though you rightly pointed out, Deepa, that, it is for us to do, but my thing is that what can they do? What exactly they can do to remove that bias that they have to step in and grab those opportunities that are there?
Yeah, the first thing is on the lighter side, don't get scared of Gomit when you go on an interview with him. So that's on the lighter side. But on the serious note, I think we should be a lot more confident, right? We like what Gomit mentioned, right? We want to be 100% sure about everything that is written in the job profile. Okay, nobody can know everything 100%. Right. So I have learned a lot, right? I'm a lifetimer at Deloitte. We started working. I have worked, especially the technology field, no one actually knows, right? Because it's all emerging technology. If you ask about metaverse, you tell me how many people will know metaverse in and out. Nobody will know. Okay. Everybody has some understanding. Some people are much more well-read. Some people are technically good. Some people don't know. So it is for you have to clearly, in a technology field, you should have that particular comfort of not knowing everything, right? And everyone doesn't know everything, and there is no requirement in any role that a person needs to be 100% or knowledge about everything that they do. You might have a certain skill sets, you have the right aptitude, you can always catch up, you can always upskill yourself, right? And that's a very important thing from a technology standpoint. So Savita, to answer the question, first, when you look at job profiles, don't get very scared. When it says technology, don't get very scared about it, right? If you hear the word technology, you should go grab it, because that is a space where you can upskill, right? So that's what I would like to mention, Savita, because I have grown, right? I started with after PCOM, I was doing a little bit of coding for a payroll software, and then I started doing information security audits. There was nothing called cyber. About 5 or 6 years back, I got into the field of cyber. Right now, I'm kind of leading the CIO customer experience for CIOs as part of, I'm leading that from my side. So I never knew everything, right? And I have a lot of good people around me who kind of bring in an expertise that I don't really have, right? And leading a team doesn't mean I need to know A to Z of everything, right? I have a set of team members who know a lot more in specific areas. So you got to build a good team and then move on. I don't know if it was a longish answer, but that's what it is.
Yes, Gomit.
Yeah, so I'd like to add on to that it's important to give yourself a try. It feels like some of us might look at a job description and feel that, okay, I don't completely fit the brief. And sometimes, job descriptions are not even so well thought through as much thought you put in. That's the unfortunate part of the hiring scenario, that we do not actually get so much time to create a job description, as much time you spend in reading. I have seen a job description asking for 3 years of experience in querying ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was launched in November 2022, right? So then, unless you can go forward in time, learn and come back, it's not happening, right? And most of the times, job descriptions, if you look at, it will have, if it's got like 10 items there. Here is how I would read it. I would read it, okay, there are 10 things here. This looks like important to the role. How am I faring? Can I do 6? Can I outperform on these 6? And can I have these 4 in my learning path? And I can be very honest about it, that hey, these are my strengths I can deal with. These are my areas of improvement. Is the organization willing to invest in me to come up to the scale that the organization expects? And 9 out of 10 times you will find the answer that yes, we are willing to, because we will play with your strengths while you develop your weaknesses. So it's very much open. It's just that you need to look at it very openly and also acknowledge that job description is a wish list. Nobody's wish list ever comes true. So it applies both ways. Look at the job description, understand a lot of technology related roles are out there in the market. I also believe what Deepa was mentioning, that if you look out for help, you will get. But if you will just shut the doors for help, you are not helping yourself either. Yeah, that's my perspective on that.
That I totally agree with you, Gumi. But what happens also, I feel that a lot of times one doesn't go to seek that help because they feel that maybe that door is not open. So I think that reticence is what holds them back. So is there any way they can essentially approach or know or figure out that, okay, this in my organization, or look, this is my wish list of organizations. In that organization, is there any way they can figure out which door to essentially knock? That's a question I'd like to put out to you guys. And I'll start with Archana first, because she's worked her way up. So maybe she could essentially share that, how does one do that? And she's doing mentorship also. And then I'll leave it to Gomit and Deepa to take that. We also have a couple of questions coming in from the audience. I can see raised hands. So Archana, post you giving that little bit of information, I'm going to go to the audiences and take some questions.
Sure, Savita. So I just want to, while Deepa and Gomit had been bringing about one particular thing about, voice out until you get it right. Let me bring a little different perspective. I mean, not a different perspective, but an additional perspective that I could see, because I know I really struggled a lot, of how to, I came up, until I asked for things were not given to me. But other perspective, when I talk now, there are two categories that I want to talk about over here. Now, one is, because there are girls who are coming out of the academias, for an example, giving you, and this is a generic, okay, even for the people who are within the field, whether they are looking at the emerging technologies, whether they're looking at entering the technology, or they are already into this. The one thing that I've seen is they don't have the clarity about what my career path looks like. Okay, so that is one thing why the doors, there's a lot of questions when we talk about academia kind of a girls who are coming in. I know they are right now in the intention of completing my graduation and then get a job. So I don't mind whether I get an AI job, whether I get a big data job, or whether I get a cybersecurity, because we are all industry experts coming from talking so many about, all these emerging technologies. So, right from the STEM, that's where I want to talk. Right from the STEM, if we are able to give that clarity in the career path, see, if we talk about cybersecurity from, that's somewhere I come in from. When I give them the gamut of career tracks that looks like, then they get clarity. Oh, okay, so these many things are there within them. It's not that what I had my own perception. So that's something that for the academia groups. But what about the people who are already in the job? I have seen where people coming to me, like Deepa was saying, the source coders. Usually the mindset is, girls, women get into the coding aspect because the STEM teaches you the Python, the TED STEM, it's very easy to get in. But what happens next is when I launched that Civics, when I launched that within my Cisco, I didn't know that. I was expecting probably 50 women would come in the cybersecurity field, but out of my surprise, there were 200 people who registered for it. And when I asked, okay, what are you looking within this forum that you have registered it for? They said, I am a coder, I am a developer, I want to enter into cybersecurity, which means that clarity of that. What can I contribute? You are a source coder doesn't mean that you're different. You're not taking security out of the box. Security has to be inscribed it, which means there is still a uncleared clarity of, how can I contribute to it? And that's something, at an individual level, you could bring in as, where you can research about a lot of, utilize all the platforms, mentorship platform. And other perspective is how organization could bring in, that organization, how they could bring in this thought process is definitely that there is a workplace culture, the cultural aspect of, again, that differs from organization to organization of how they are uplifting the women. But I think the organization wise, that reskilling that we were talking, as Deepa was, talking about, so much opportunities are there. The skill set that we are talking about and the shortage that we're talking about, how the organization or the workplace culture is giving you the freedom and the flexibility to reskill in itself, right? So reskilling, look at the reskilling options that is available. You can be still in your developer, but how can I look at the security aspect and still work within my field and, just bring that as we don't have to change the domain. you can still be that within that aspect, right? So I think, there's always a
That's amazing.
two ways,
Yeah.
bi-directional, two ways, it's within your individual perspective and the organization supporting you and the mentors. There is also a little bit about lack of, there are a lot of mentorship platforms, but, as the representation of the leadership that we're talking about, less than 10%, why is that? Since we are all potential candidates, why are we not able to jump into the leadership? Yes, because that mentorship and that the lack of the tap that has to be given to a woman, because again the factors that influence every woman is different, right? Because there are women who look at the work life, if that's something which is gone, she would not step up to look at the things. They'll say, okay, this is a happy job, but even though she is a potential candidate, why not we tap her energy and bring it her up to the top? How many of them look at conversion ratio? We talk about, like Gomit was talking, there is so much diversity and inclusion that we talk about. It's just not onto the papers. Today, we talk about every board has to bring one women representative, right? So there is a law that everybody has to bring one woman into it. Is it just because you're showcasing the number, or really you're doing the conversion? And I think you should look at the aspect of how many unpotential tapped people are there, and you make that conversion happen. So maybe this is just the perspective, just, keeping conscious of time. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. So I'm just going to bring in Kavya here. Kavya, I saw you had raised your hand. Is there something you want to ask or contribute? Kavya? So audience, I feel you need to put in the questions, or you can essentially unmute yourself and ask the question. Please feel free to do that. Coming back to the essential dialogue, that what I need you to also realize is that mentorship is something that is essentially gathering a lot of momentum. And I think that's across spectrums and sectors. There was Deepa Shishadri, who had essentially just now commented also, saying that, how important mentorship and sponsorship is. So a little bit on that, like, is there a specific space that does it, or an organization, or within your organizations? How do you take up mentorship and sponsorship to bring in women up the leadership ladder? Deepa.
Yeah, thanks, Savita. So, see, I have been very fortunate to have both a mentor and a sponsor as far as my career is concerned. And this is not just for women; for everybody in an organization, you should have a mentor and a sponsor. A mentor is a person with whom you can go have a discussion. And my mentor, for example, whatever answer he gives me, it will be only one sentence, right? After that, I will have 1 page of things to tell him. He will give me an answer in 1 line, and he'll say, go figure out. So a mentor is not a person who's going to give you all the details in terms of how you're going to be doing it, but the person will guide you. And a sponsor is a person who will be able to take your case and give you an elevated pitch. He'll give you a lot more opportunities. So in our own organization, we have a lot of programs as far as sponsorship programs are concerned, right? And I think these came in when Bhavani was has been initiated by Bhavani, actually. So we have something called a WAVE program for our associate directors, senior managers, and directors, for them to become future partners, right? That's called a WAVE program. We have something called a DRIVE program, which is for deputy managers. Deputy manager is somebody who comes with 6 to 7 years of experience. And usually the funnel breaks there, right? So we have specific programs to making sure that the funnel doesn't break, right? So those are some programs, some initiatives that we have. And now from a CXO standpoint, Savita, we've started something called as She XO, right? Where we are trying to make sure that the various CXOs are able to take a lot more of leadership positions, like Bhavani said, more P&L responsibilities, being part of the board, and things like that. So that's another program that we are looking at. And every organization has these programs. But for those programs, it's important that you don't hesitate to be part of it, or demand as to why you're not part of it.
Gomit?
So, 2 facets to it. While I'm not speaking in the capacity of an ABB leader, but I would still like to mention that in companies like these, a lot of programs exist. There are mentorship streams where you can ask for a mentor as well as be enroll as a mentor. And there are multiple streams. Interestingly, there is a women in digital stream or women in leadership stream where there can be somebody who is aspiring to be in a leadership layer and would like to find a mentor who can guide them to that stream. So those kinds of programs are available. Now we're talking about general demographic. It's not possible that every organization will have same sets of beliefs and same set of programs. So it does not stop you from looking out for a mentor. There can be an industry senior. There can be actually somebody who you look up to, and they may not necessarily be an industry senior, but a very sorted person. So I was mentoring somebody who is 7 years elder to me some time back. So it's also biased that X number of revolutions around the sun equal to the quality of experience. That's not necessary. Somebody may be doing same stuff for 7 years, so their experience is 7 into 1 year. Right. So a lot of these things are there. You will also have to look at how you can find somebody who can guide you. Fresh out of the college, there are actually free mentorship sites. So maybe if we can take out time from all the other things that we do, and we can look out for where can I find any seeds of wisdom to sort my life to even a small bit. If you are in an organization which is offering mentorship and mentee programs, please heartily take part in it. It is really valuable. It doesn't, and it is both ways. You know, when I mentor somebody, since ABB is a global organization, I'm mentoring somebody in China, somebody in UK. So it also helps me. So just think that, you know, a mentor is also there for a mutual benefit, right? So programs like these help. Just look out for a mentor, even if for that matter, free. Look out for a senior who can just guide you. Sponsorship, not everybody is lucky like Deepa, but there are certain people, certain organizations who even offer these programs. So if they're available from the organization, please don't park them as HR topics. They are your topics facilitated by HR. And if that's not an opportunity, I'm not going to lead into an intellectual dialogue that you have to find the way kind of, but there are opportunities which one can exercise, and just by searching over the internet, you can find a lot of resources for free.
Got it. So, you know, we have spoken about two very essential things. We've spoken about the bias that is there, both the unconscious, the concerted bias, the inherent bias. We've spoken about sponsorship, mentorship. Some of the organizations have it. Some of them we can definitely search. And of course, some of it we can create for ourselves. Now I come to one of the most important questions, which has also come from the audience, is to do with recruitment. So first question is essentially that when you're approaching to be recruited for a particular role in the digital space, what kind of corrective course or corrective steps you can take in order to be considered? That is the first question I have. My follow-up question is, usually it has been seen, so because our topic essentially is dealing with women in the digital world, it's usually been considered that if women are sitting on a particular panel, they are the ones who essentially don't allow other women to essentially get that opportunity or do not put that step in. So maybe there is a bias there, but it is, you know, two very crucial questions I feel that the audience would also essentially want to understand. So the first one, just to, you know, bring it into context, is what are the steps that they can take in order to be considered or to see that they get a right opportunity. So I'll start with Archana.
Yeah, so I think for you, I mean, for women to get considered around, you know, whatever the job that they're applying for it, as I think somewhere I did hear Deepa and Gomit talking about, is when I recruit, you know, for example, within the SOC, when we kind of recruit people, we're really not looking at the entire skill. SOC is a very technical domain. Okay, so I really am not going to see, let's be honest over here, we are not going to get somebody who's going to be 100% matching with all the skills. So what is that? I'm looking at the aspect of the women is definitely the attitude, you know, how is she bringing forth? It could be anything that she would have done as a project, how you're bringing forth of what you have already learned or what you have done. If you're already in enterprise, put forward it. And if something you don't know, it's okay to say we do not know, probably because we are not looking for somebody who's known, right? Know things. We can always relearn, we can reshape and things. So I think it's a presentation is very important of how you put forward your thing. Nobody's looking at your, because that's why I wanted to bring this point is when we look at emerging technologies, one aspect of when we look at the resume is they think that the industry is looking at somebody who is certified. So I have seen resumes where there are 10 piles of certification they would have done, right? From your CISSP, CCNA, talk about everything is done in the resume because they think if I'm going to do 10 certification, I'm going to get recruited. It's not true. Let me clarify if there is a forum, there are thoughts of process of people over here or the women, not just women, but it's also, it's generic thing that they think about. If I'm going to enter it, let me just, do the hands-on. You could do the hands-on, learn do it versus your skill, but present what you know it. I think that's something I can simply put forward it over here.
Gomit.
So I've seen that people ask me this question that how do we approach it, and there's no one good answer. I've seen some people taking bold steps, some people taking no steps. So first step is apply. If you don't apply, then nothing is starting. So you have to at least kickstart the process in motion. And then when I say bold steps is also if you can figure out who's hiring. And I would not mind if somebody reached out to me saying that, hey, you are hiring for this position. I find it interesting. And can you tell me what are the key things you're looking out for? Sometimes people may respond. Sometimes people are reserved. I'm not saying everybody will respond. I will. I don't represent the entire hiring community, but there would be people like me who would be interested. And it's also to understand that, it's a two-way street. I'm as desperate to hire as somebody is for the opportunity, right? So that's part number one. And then also look out for peer in your networks who can actually tell you what this position could stand for, or how does that fit into general aspiration. And it's not just about saying that, just headless search for job should be carried out. It's also about defining your personal perspective and your personal aspirations. Where do you want to be? And look out for people, ask those questions that is this fitting to your, your long-term goals? Because you can be happy for a month, for a year, but if it does not fit into your long-term aspirations, it really doesn't work too well in long term. So ask the question, try those opportunities, and obviously look out for people who are connected to you. If you cannot find the answer from the source, try finding the answer from whatever source you have. That's a little bit of women's perspective, because they prefer to be more safe, stick to the brief kind of. So the closer to the brief they can get, the more comfortable they would be in evaluating the prospect. So whatever information, whichever source available, try it out.
Yes. So Deepa, I'm going to then come to the second part of the question to you, because as Gumit and Archana have shared, it's us and our readiness that essentially enables any recruitment panel to essentially notice us. To you, then I put it that, is it a fact that it is the women recruiters who essentially would put a spoke or, might not essentially be conducive to other women candidates? And that's where, the gap is there.
Savita, there are two parts to this. Okay, I mean, the first part is, I think, when at least in whatever I have seen, there is nothing that we just go through what I've sat through so many panels. It really doesn't matter. It is about, once you come into a panel, it is about the performance or what the person brings onto the table. I don't think we wear the hat of whether it's any gender comes into play as far as that is concerned. In fact, I would think that there is more leeway that is being given to women coming in. So honestly, so many 25 years in my journey, I don't think I have ever worn a hat to say that, okay, this person is a male, female. That never comes in. That's a professional who's come onto the table. There is a work that needs to get done, and we evaluate it accordingly. That is number one. The other part of it is the same, the women to have that perfection, right? A lot of them aspire to be the perfect, and we search for that same perfection in the other person as well, right? We were in a session during our partners meeting where Rahul Dravid had come. So one of the things that Rahul Dravid had said is, I don't coach my team like how I played. Okay, so he's a very defensive. He's a very different, not defensive, very different player. So he says that he doesn't coach his team the way he had played, right? So the same thing holds good for everybody in a panel, right? So you got to see what that person brings onto the table and not see whether do they match closely to what you have done. So that would be my perspective. So,
Archana, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, I completely 101% with Deepa. There's no gender thing that comes in a mind when we are recruiting a person, right? So I think if there's somebody who's asking these questions, let's break that bias. If at all it is, let's do that today so that, that clarity comes to that person. But I think it's more the culture and the workplace, that really also sometimes, let's not neglect to that fact also, that which influences. And when we were talking about that, the 10 things, like they say, right? So when men's are applying, they just see the, okay, first 2 points, but the women's are looking at all the list. Oh, I have this, I have this, I have this. Okay, I don't have the 10th point. What do I do then, kind of thing? So let's break that, even if present yourself as much as possible. And that's something, I think it's closely resembles to what Deepa had said. Yeah.
Gurmeet, have you ever felt that maybe your women co-panelist might be the spoke when you were sitting on a recruitment for a female to fill up a position?
Might be a what? Sorry, I wanna.
Might be the spoke, or it is the woman, what do you call, recruiter, who essentially might be not considering the woman recruitee.
Without naming anybody, I can tell you an example that we were hiring for a position, and this person, I am a co-panelist for the position in their organization. Okay. And I was talking about, hey, you've hired this and that, and all of them are men. And, we need to make sure that you are creating a healthy pipeline. And she's a senior in terms of authorities. So she's like, I don't get flustered when you talk about making a balance, because I feel that, I will prefer here somebody who is more challenged and who's coming with a lot of experience and who can work 24/7. And I asked her that you work 24/7 sometimes. Why do you already imagine that the person you are going to recruit will not work 24/7 in the time of need? And this is a conversation with somebody in Europe. So it's unimaginable to me that a bias of that sort exists, where the gender balance in the digital stream is very high already. Women are already over 30% represented in almost up to middle management. So it's a very strange thing I've seen, and it does exist. I'll not give many other examples because I have colleagues who might watch this later and will beat me up, but they do exist all around, yes. Not all the time.
That is very interesting then, Gurmeet. So I guess maybe there is, it's evident that I've seen when I've asked that senior women leader, she said that that there are lots of backups that are there. I don't think any female would fit for it. If it exists in one organization, it exists in the other. So this is the perspective that has come from Srividya in the audience. So I guess some of them have essentially faced it, and maybe we as individuals might not want to do it, but I'm sure it is there somewhere, which essentially, women themselves think that, okay, the men can do certain roles because of the hour play that is there, the number of hours they can put in, and women will not because they are more streamlined, which is out there. So with that, I'm now going to shift into the last segment that we're coming to the end. And I still urge the audience, please do ask, feel free to unmute and ask. I have Sri Ganesh.
Just if you permit me, I have
sure, please, sir.
Few points.
Yes,
and it is by way of my thought process. And I leave it to the resource persons who can pick up and they can react to that with their rich experience. See, we are talking, the title itself is the digital world with opportunities and also the challenges that are there. Now, with the digital world, you can see that even without our knowledge or consent, we have created a huge emotional gap, not only in the family, but also in the peer group. Because we talk with machines, even to the person who is sitting next to you, you don't ask him, immediately you send a mail and he replies by mail. And so it brings a huge gap. How are we going to tackle this? Because it is going to have a serious impact health-wise also in the years to come, when we are trying to boost this digital world. This is one thing we have to address. The second one, this digital world creates a panic in the sense, in one place when there is a crash, the man loses his balance, he comes to the street. Because there is no parallel or alternate available to him in this digital world. One crash, so even in our own computer, in the laptop when we just sitting in the airport lounge and trying to do, suddenly it crashes, finish, you lose your balance, even you will miss your flight. That is how it is happening. It is creating that amount of panic. Third, every digital world, you can see it's coming in as a package, like a software or whatever it is. And when it comes, you have to fine tune or apply it in the way in which it is. You mean to say that the digital world has put an end or putting a stop to your creative thinking? Because you can't use your brain or you can't improve on it because that is a software. It is a costless idiot. What you say it will do, that's it. So your creativity, where does it go? Now, this digital world makes 10 people job, a man can do it by press of a button. And in one hand, we are saying that we are going to create a huge employment. Is it going to create employment or going to create unemployment? We have to answer it, keeping in mind the large workforce that is coming in. And the security part of it, because there are so many cyber specialties are here. The security part of it, a person working in your organization, knowing a lot of things very close to the heart of the management of the organization. And he's being hired by another by giving him another 10 lakhs extra, what you call them as poaching or whatever you call it as. And to how this digital world will protect that, what you called as confidentiality and other things. Last but not the least, last but not the least, you know, India, the structure in which it is, this digital world is available only for the privileged few at the top rank. The lower level, even if you go to the village level today, no one knows what is a password, what is a username. He doesn't know even to know online banking system. He uses his right hand thumb impression only still. Even that nowadays he is not able to do it because using the sanitizer, all the ray and all gone. Nobody is able to even put that. It doesn't validate. So many things are there. And women by themselves, I salute them because they have that unique creative ability in their gene itself. So they are very highly suitable for the digital. They are able to do magic in that. I don't say no to that. But it comes with a package of so many challenges also. We have to address them also. This is my submission.
Thank you so much.
I leave it to the panel.
Thank you so much. I know there's a lot that essentially is out there, and I so agree. The problem is also that we are just 3 minutes from our closing show. So, Mr. Ravi, I'm so sorry that we won't be able to take all the questions, but if one of you...
No, you need not react to any of these things. All these stalwarts are going to meet so many people, going to recruit people, because for me, I have put in 50 years of experience so far.
Yes, sir.
So for me, probably another 10 years or 15 years, I do not know how much God willing. But these people, young, they are going to face so many youngsters, they're going to shape the future. So they should keep all these things also at the back of their mind.
Very true.
That is the reason why I shared.
If I can just give my views, Ravi sir, you have given all the set of challenges which makes us think about another panel discussion on the challenges with the digital world, and we promise we'll hold it for you, wherein we'll address all these points.
Thanks,
Bhavani. Thank you so much, Bhavani. So I think because of the paucity of time, though, I had one question I wish maybe quickly you guys can answer is about what are the opportunities that are there for women in the digital world quickly. I mean, 2 seconds to each one of you, and then I'll hand it over to Bhavani. But I feel that this is a very important question that is there. Archana.
Yeah, so I think there is ample amount of opportunities if I have to talk about the cybersecurity, because that's as we were talking about, choose it whether you are a fresher coming inside, you have ample, you could think about being a SOC. And, I don't want to really use those job titles, but let me, for the sake of, people could go back and then search what does a SOC analyst means, threat hunting means, threat analysis. So ample of opportunities, use this phrase of cybersecurity, job titles, you will get it. So definitely there are more, if you want me to list it out, I could list it out like,
Sure.
yeah.
Got it, Rachel. Thanks. Deepa?
Example opportunities, look at technology broader. And there are a lot of opportunities there. Like what Dr. Ravi said, there are challenges, but those are challenges can be converted into opportunities as well.
Gomit?
So 2-second answer is many opportunities. Slightly elaborating on it is every opportunity is a woman's opportunity. Why should we just typecast it? Unless it's a selection for a men's cricket team, why should you think that it is a man's job or it's a woman's job? It's everybody's.
Excellently put. So, with that, I'm just going to just leave a couple of things for the audience out there. That one, it's very important that you figure out your career graph and you essentially chart it there. And then you match it to your organization so that you keep yourself streamlined and focused. Do work on your reskilling and your upskilling. So therefore, look out for those opportunities. So change is something that is not somebody else has to bring for you. You are the change in itself. I think that's one of the most leading examples. Do not hesitate. I think what we lack as an individual is essentially sometimes confidence as a woman. It's that confidence that, okay, maybe I can't do everything. That's not what anybody is looking at. What they're looking at is that, yes, you can contribute to the organization. So bring that to the fore. Bring yourself to the fore. And most importantly, I feel you need to see what is the network out there. So that's the kind of input that you can give yourself, that let's do the homework. Let's see who can help us and how can I help the other. And I think that itself will help to open up a lot of opportunities. So with that, without much ado, I'm going to give it to Bhavani to sum up and give her closing remarks.
What a set of rich thoughts and perspectives. The kind of lived experiences and the journey shared by the panelists, so well coordinated by Savita. I mean, one need not overemphasize about her articulation skills in the field in which she is, but the whole panel went on so much of practical thoughts and ideas, and I'm sure that this time is too short for our panel, and I wish we had a longer session. But normally virtual panels we plan only for this time span, thinking that concentration is only so much with the digital space. So thank you all so much, and thanks for all the participants who are here, and a special thanks to Dr. Ravi, who always gives us various perspectives to think about. But this time I promise, Ravi, we'll hold another session on the challenges, and especially the challenges with the digital world for India and women in rural India, for sure. Thank you so much, friends. It was wonderful having you all here. Thank you, Savita, and thank you all the panelists. Much obliged.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks to the Secretariat for organizing this for us. And my thanks to Saraswati for welcoming everybody at such a short notice, although she had another program to run to. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.